Hello, everybody. This is Ralitsa Vassileva for Global Atlanta. I talked to the EU ambassador to the United States, David O'Sullivan, about the challenges in trade talks with the United States. There are some very important negotiations that the EU and the United States have started on the transatlantic trade and investment negotiations. Tell us about the differences that remain. There were protests over the weekend, very strong protests in Germany and in other European cities because people are worried that these talks will erode consumer safety standards in Europe. How serious are the differences and bridging them to be able to get to this agreement?
Well, I mean, these negotiations were based on a high-level group report which set out what the potential benefits of a deal could be. Reducing tariffs, increasing opportunities for services, government procurement, regulatory cooperation, reducing the cost of doing business across the Atlantic. These are the issues which are under discussion. Neither the United States nor the European Union wishes to negotiate an agreement which would diminish our high standards of protection, whether for consumer health or for environment or for labor safety, health and safety, or labor rules in our different economies. Neither of us would be able to get such an agreement approved by our respective political authorities, the Congress in the case of the United States and the European Council and European Parliament in the case of Europe. So I think these fears are completely unfounded. Of course, I understand that when there is not yet a text which you can show people, because the negotiations are not finished, people are able to speculate and to fantasize about all kinds of things that might be in the agreement. But the fact is, when you look at the mandate that we have for this negotiation, it does not contain the slightest opening for a lowering of standards on either sides of the Atlantic.
And there's one more big concern in Europe, and that is that big businesses can sue governments if those policies in some way affect their business. What's the EU response on that?
Well, our first response was to launch a public consultation on the issue. We need to be clear that what we're talking about is the possibility under an investment treaty for a foreign investor to sue a government which it feels has discriminated against the foreign investor. So it's actually a rather limited possibility. It's mainly designed to deal with a situation where, for example, a government might expropriate the assets of a foreign investor, in which case the foreign investor would claim monetary compensation. But it is true that there has been suggestions that this could somehow be enlarged to make it possible for corporations to sue for government actions of broader public policy. The Commission has had a public consultation. We have identified the kind of ways in which we could address those problems, reinforcing the right to regulate of governments, making the process of these arbitration panels more transparent, making it possible even for civil society groups to participate in the process, and having the possibility perhaps of some appeals process. And we're very confident that with these measures we'll be able to reassure those people who have concerns and still to maintain the principle of having such a clause in an agreement, which I think both sides think is very necessary.
I wanted to ask you, why have very close European allies of the United States decided to go against its wishes and support the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which the U.S. sees as undermining Western-backed institutions like the IMF and the World Bank?
Well, I think, frankly, this issue has been taken a bit out of proportion. I mean, this is a relatively modest initiative to set up a new bank designed to promote infrastructure investment in Asia. It's a Chinese initiative. A number of European countries have decided that they think this is something they would wish to be associated with. We share some of the U.S. concerns that this bank could go in the wrong direction if it did not follow best practice of international lending, and our calculation is it was better to be inside and to be able to shape the future direction of the bank. And I think the United States was initially rather unhappy, but I think now understands why the Europeans have taken this decision. We still remain firm allies of the United States on the general principles, but I think putting extra money into much needed infrastructure development in Asia can only be a good thing, provided it is done on the right basis.
There are concerns, though, that the U.S. appears to be losing its foothold and influence in Asia. We also had China make a major infrastructure investment in Pakistan just a few days ago. Is the European Union worried about the loss of U.S. influence in the world?
No, I think the US remains the world's only superpower. It remains the single most influential country in the world, and we are a strong ally of the United States. But it is true that what is happening in Asia is very remarkable, and the rise of China is in many ways something to be welcomed. The former European Commissioner, Chris Patton, used to say the only thing that should worry us more than a successful China would be an unsuccessful China. And the European Union is also heavily engaged in Asia. We're negotiating, like the United States, an investment treaty with China. Europe is the largest foreign direct investor in Asia. We have massive investments in China, in Japan, in ASEAN. We are strong supporters of ASEAN, as is the United States. So we believe in the future of Asia. We believe that Asia has an amazingly important future. America is actively engaged, negotiating the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We're negotiating a trade agreement with Japan, with Vietnam, with Thailand, with Malaysia. We've concluded with Singapore and with Korea. So I think Asia is destined to have a fantastic future in the 21st century, and both the United States and Europe will want to be a part of that.
What is your biggest priority as the EU ambassador to the United States?
Well, the biggest priority is to continue to strengthen and intensify the relationship, whether that is in the area of foreign policy and security, the close cooperation we've had on Ukraine, Russia, Iran, the Middle East, and also to take forward our economic and commercial ties. And of course, I would love to be able to witness the successful conclusion of our trade negotiations during my time as ambassador over the next couple of years.
Ambassador David O'Sullivan, EU Ambassador to the United States, thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.